record. Great. Okay. All right. I'll call to order this meeting of the Robinson School Building Committee for Tuesday, March 4th. It's just about a few minutes after 12, and we have a quorum. This meeting is being recorded. We're going to start with public comment. I don't see any members of the public on, so we will jump right into meeting minutes. I know there was a couple edits. Has everyone had a chance to look at that? Any concerns or edits? Okay, we'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 25th.
So moved.
Thank
Okay.
you. John, second. Okay. All in favor? Kevin?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Dr. Chu?
Aye.
Lindsay? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Okay. John?
Aye.
John Leffers?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. 890. Okay. So, the next couple of meetings our biggest focus is really just continuing to reflect and refine and plan for our upcoming forums and presentations. So last night, we can start by reflecting on last night. Dr. Chu and I and Lindsay gave a presentation to the school committee that resulted in a unanimous vote of support for Article 7. So Kristen, would you prefer me to put that in an email to Pam or Dan for the motions booklet?
Any recommendations should go to Dan for
Dan.
the motion booklet, please.
Okay. And vote. Got it. Dr. Chu, do you remember anything from the discussion that this committee might be interested in? I mean, I think the school committee, it's not new information to them. They've been following the SMMA report findings and the working groups master plan. All of that is all interwoven. So I think there was just an interest in seeing this next step and realizing that it is an opportunity for our district to explore what's our master plan looks like. So
Yeah, I don't think there was any surprises per se. It's a loaded question to just ask if we remember anything from the meeting, but
it was a long one.
Right. And my initial since we coupled it with the presentation about the space usage working group that we've done this year. And I think that that's helpful to have that information together. I was sort of hoping that we might be able to do it as a concise presentation and then sort of have conversation, but it's more of our nature at school committee to kind of have discussion along the way, with the slides. And so it didn't become the more concise thing that I was hoping it might be. But
we're not usually good at concise, but yeah.
I'm certainly not good at concise.
Yeah, Lindsay.
Being relatively new to attending the school committee meetings, I thought the dialogue was helpful and productive. Two takeaways I had, just kind of top of mind were, I'm wondering if we link the space usage slide deck to our frequently asked questions or put it up on the website. I thought that was that's useful background for those who do care to dive deeper into all the pieces. And then I forget who it was, but somebody had brought up the looking at during the feasibility study, if approved, really looking at the long-term operating savings or potential costs rather, so that we can get when we get cost estimates for the various options out of the feasibility study, that we also have operating costs to put with those, so that we're really able to put a true cost benefit table together with the various options that take into account upfront capital as well as long-term operating.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
We don't have to do that at all over the next 3 weeks, but something for the next 12 months if approved.
Right. To just weave that in when we are wrapping and synthesizing all the information, I think. Dr. Chu?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do we think that that's something, we could ask Kathy to send that presentation to the full RSBC as well too. Just for people to kind of read it if they wanted to look over it. Most of it are things that we have sort of talked about as we were talking about how we got here within this group, but it has data that I think might be helpful for people to have. Yeah, that's a good point. So Kathy, if Valerie, if you and Lindsay think that's a good idea, we could do that.
Yep. I can send to, I don't think Kathy has a
She
copy of
does.
it.
I
Oh,
sent it to
okay.
her this morning so she could put it in the packet.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Um, okay, we can move right along then. I don't think there any other takeaways from that. It was just another point to announce the forums and the tours, and I know there has been some social media chatter over the weekend. Um, Dr. Chu's sends out a monthly email for anyone that doesn't know to all families in the district on the first of every month and mentioned the forums and the work this committee is doing in that email. So I think that sort of triggered a little bit of awareness among the community. Okay, so then next item on our list really is our forums next week. We have some talking points from Kevin and Dr. Chu that we can review. We also have a handout that Allison did a quick draft of, and I'd like to discuss as a committee on what kind of information we think would be helpful on there. So I'll just share my screen and we can get started with one of those.
While you're doing that, Valerie, I did look and it seems like over 300 people have seen the tour video, whether they've watched the whole thing or not. That's at least the count that exists on YouTube. It's like 335 or 330, something like that, which is good. I'm glad that people are checking out the tour.
Great. So I had asked Allison to mock up like a 8.5 by 11 that we could just easily cut down the middle for some handouts at the tours and forums. Allison, do you want to just describe what I did see your emails. It just was a lot with school committee last night and this morning getting ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
So I mean, it was a little hard for me to put together a visual without really knowing what we wanted to highlight. I know at one point we kind of talked about maybe putting some of the FAQs on there. I mean, something like this is really just a tangible piece that can direct people to more information. I kind of feel like you can't go wrong with it. I've seen things like, people just handing out QR codes, or, you could just hand out the packet of FAQs. So like, it really doesn't, I don't think matter. Sorry, that's our school bell.
That's okay.
And so I kind of did, I just kind of put this together, keeping it looking like the other flyer. I did notice on the website, the district's website, that I couldn't find Dr. Chu's video very easily. So I was thinking we should put that on there. And I also had a few other suggestions for the website that we might want to address before like sending people there. But anyway, this is just a quick draft. We can make it whatever we want.
Allison, I just last night after or during the school committee meeting, I put the video on the main launch page.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So it is listed at the bottom where the documents are.
So I'll edit the two, if we keep these two bullets of what we want people to like really focus on, I'll edit the title to be exactly what it is or how it's displayed on the website. I think that makes it helpful. But other than that, we can open for discussion.
Yeah. Does anyone have any reactions to this?
I would just recommend that we have either a phone number or a contact person. There may be people in the community who want to know more, who don't have access to I know this is crazy, but cell phone or care to use the website or the cell phone. So in any of the communications I'm doing recently, I just tried to have a person's name and a phone number as well.
Okay. That works. Do you think, Dr. Chu, your office or I have a
Yeah,
Google Voice number I could share.
no, I think my office would make the most sense.
Okay.
Sorry, Kathy.
Great. That's a great suggestion. I was thinking about whether or not, and I don't know if it makes sense on this handout, but something I was thinking about on the slide deck that we used. So we basically used the same slide deck from the FinCom meeting last night in the school committee meeting. And one thing I was thinking about was, like, if anybody attended a previous town meeting where I think we did it for the override and for the MBTA communities articles, but we had created, like, staff had created like a very simple yes, no table. Like a yes vote means this, a no vote means this. And it kind of speaks to the conversations we've been having as a committee about how to really communicate the high risk with this vote. And so I guess I'm not sure yet if I have to visualize it before we see if it makes sense on this handout, but maybe it's something that I could put together a draft of, and then Allison and I could see if it would make sense on this, or if you think it would be too much information to put on a half sheet handout.
That's actually how I started, but then I was concerned about, are we able to print this and hand it out I mean, I guess if you're putting both sides, it might be okay. That is, that would be helpful, I think, for people.
Okay.
I
Is it a?
I do like the simplicity of this. Sorry, Kevin.
I think it was,
Are we able to print on both sides?
yeah, that could work, right?
So one side is this, and then the
Simple.
other side is, what happens with a yes vote, what happens with a no vote. And I do think that you can keep it objective. It's, the answer is yes, and we fund $1.6 million for the feasibility study. I love Chris's 4 next steps from that,
Yep.
that he lists. That could be the case. And then the no is that we continue to look at long-term capital planning for at least Robinson School. What capital items are left there, which is about $8 million over the course of seven years.
Yep. John, I noticed you unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, is it appropriate to have a lead into the the introduction of the article to include that kind of information? Like a yes vote means this and a no vote means this, just so it's very clear.
What do you mean by appropriate, I guess?
I don't know if it's custom or not. If we is that something that can just be noted when it's described ahead of a vote?
Yes, we can do that. We just have to be really careful and review it with town council so that we're not swaying the vote one way or the other. So it just has to be extremely factual.
Okay.
So maybe if I draft something, we could send it over to legal to review. Kristen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then this, where am I looking? The date, the 4th. So maybe we have a couple ready for the senior center handout, and then definitely for that Wednesday night on the 12th and the Saturday tours on the 15th. That sounds good. And keeping the front, sounds like keeping the front sort of simple and clean would be appealing, and then maybe adding some information on the back if we can get legal to review that. Okay, great. I think if I just switch tabs, can you still see my screen? Okay, so
Yes.
Dr. Chu and Kevin, you want to talk through what you've been working on?
Sure. So before we did the video in the first place, Kevin and I collaborated to figure out what would the talking points look like. And so we had developed a script for that. And so I took that information and got a little help from AI to turn it into a bunch of sentences. I didn't actually craft all of that. I had a little help from Gemini to just make statements if people were more comfortable reading. They certainly don't have to read it exactly, but I just figured with the range of people who are volunteering to help us, it has the talking points on it. And what we've done is this is just 3 different tours: Tour A, Tour B, Tour C, all have the exact same information, just in a different order. So that then, and then I figured Kevin and I can talk about, we'll look at the map. We already have a map that Kevin has already created of just a simple 1-page map of the building. And we can decide, okay, well, which does it make sense? We can still adjust them a little bit. Tour A goes one direction, Tour B goes another, Tour C goes another, and some of them are doing backwards, and then they just kind of go in different ways, so that if we have that many tours going, we just, we're hitting different spots. But it's just sort of looking at the main points. I bold, I bolded the actual spots, like the nurses' clinic, the art music, so that instead of, but we could always put it on the side too, whichever would be most helpful for somebody giving a tour.
Sorry, the mute button hides when you're screen sharing, so there's a delay. I think this is a great start. I'm really interested in feedback from, like, I feel really confident in my knowledge of the building, and so I'm really interested in feedback from the members who have volunteered to help with the tours, but maybe not as familiar with the building. So I didn't send this out, so I'll send this out, and if you fall into that category, please take a minute and look through it. Is the floor plan at the end or in a separate doc?
I didn't include the floor plan
Okay.
on there. It is really simple. We can send that out to everybody as well too. I have a digital copy of it, Kevin, from when we did our space usage thing. So I can just use the same current one. It even has the grade levels listed
Oh,
on
good.
it.
Yeah. Right.
So unless, Kevin, you think there'd be a reason why we shouldn't use that one, but I feel like the only people who are going to have the map are the guides. So
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. It's limited to the people that will need to know that information.
And just really so that people like the members who are volunteering to help, have a chance to orient yourself ahead of time and kind of review it. Any reactions? Yeah, Allison.
So I've been in the building once. So maybe I did volunteer to help, and I do think I can study this up and be okay. Maybe I am also someone who just hands out the flyer if there's enough people to tour. But I almost wonder, do we think that just staggering the tours every 15 minutes so there's like a flow, also like that could also help by corralling people so that there's an actual, so you kind of get the most bang for your buck when you send out a tour instead of staggering where the start is. I wonder if that might be something to consider.
I think that's great, Allison. I was thinking that if we are prepared, I think that would be better. But I think if we are prepared based on the number of people who might show up to have them run at the same time, if we already have that route, we're all set. But you're
Okay.
right, we could just run A and just keep running A every 15 minutes. That was kind of my thought process.
Or group A goes and then the next tour guide goes so that, the A person has a little bit of a break and gets the next group together and something like that.
I think it seems like, oh, sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
My brain works in a little more absoluteness. Forgive me if it's too defined. But are we clear on the quantity of us who are showing up on each day, and then the roles and responsibilities of each of us on those days? Like, for example, do we have 10 people from this committee showing up on one day, but only 2 on the other? And should there be an ask, if that's the case, to rebalance ourselves? And if we are going to have 10, is it all 10 doing tours, or is it 4 handing out and 6 doing tours?
Good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that piece we haven't, we've looked at in the minutes, we looked to see who said when they could come at what time. But we haven't divided that up yet, Stephen. I think you're right. We need to kind of have an idea as to who would be responsible for what.
Yeah, I'm not looking, and if people aren't comfortable like in a public speaking forum, not looking, to create those waves, I am comfortable, whether that's good or bad, so I don't have a problem leading tours and I can talk myself through things
Yep.
with schools. But I think like that dialogue, a little more absoluteness of who's doing what, I think will help people, especially when it comes to answering this back to you for more feedback. I do have like quantitative feedback for you, but I don't want to overwhelm you with it if I'm not going to be one of the ones doing the talking.
Okay.
One of the things we noticed, Stephen, was that Kevin, Jeff Goodwin, and I were all available for all of the tour spots. So right away, we kind of knew that even if each one of us divided and someone was with us, or kind of felt pretty good about having having that support there. And then everything else was kind of like that'll just be helpful and supportive. And I think Valerie, you were available too. So it's kind of like we could just break it down.
Right. I don't have, I guess because I don't have concerns about the numbers, it hasn't led me to kind of block it out that way. But I think that's a sort of a great step to take to really just make sure that you all have an appropriate expectations for your roles, and so that we're feel a little bit more organized. So I can look back at the minutes to see who volunteered and had availability, and then kind of piece that together. And you're right, Dr. Chu, either making pairs or some flexibility in that, I think will be, it's nice to have the flows worked out so that we're not winging it about where another start point would make sense if we do have a influx of people. But to Allison's point, if it's kind of a trickle effect, we could just kind of keep staggering that A flow.
When I do
enough people to pair it off, because if it's a larger group that you're touring, some people may not hear what you're saying. And then also there may be a question that comes up from, let's say, the back side of the group or the end of the group that, perhaps one other committee member could stop the whole group and ask that question or share that information.
Yep.
When I run facility tours, like granted they're during construction, libraries, schools, public facilities, things like that, the leader in a trailer is usually the most effective dynamic, where the person talking and guiding is out front, and then like hypothetically on the trailer, people are more apt to ask questions in a one-on-one scenario to that trailer and not interrupt the leader when talking. And it kind of keeps the person who's talking focused on talking about your points on that paper and not get distracted by, kind of fielding those one-off questions about what's this room called again?
Great. Dr. Chu and I said this last night, but to the school committee, but I just want to take a moment again to show my appreciation for the expertise that you, Allison, and Lindsay have, because this is analyzing a tour is not something, I think that most of us would think about. And so I really appreciate that you are bringing that value to this group and these discussions. So just to double down on that appreciation that you guys, stepped up to help this committee. I really, really do value that.
It sounds like you, Kevin, and Dr. Chu have the content down, so you're probably the leaders, and then the rest of us who are showing it up should act in a supporting capacity to you, because I think you have the most harmonious message between the three of you that won't create confusion to the public. That, if I try to interject on something that, I'm more relying on my experience on.
Yep. I think that's great feedback, and I'm seeing a lot of head nods. So appreciate that point, Steve. Okay, so talking points we're going to send around. I'm going to put together some roles. We touched on the handout. Geez, where's my thing? Okay. The flyer is live. I will send, as soon as this meeting ends, I'll send the flyer to you, Kristen, for a news flash?
Yep. We can have our communications consultant help us with that. We may want to have them look at the flyer real quick if you would like to send us an editable version.
I've only got a PDF or image file from you, Allison. What software were you using?
Photoshop.
Okay. Does that work for them, Kristen?
Photoshop should work, yes.
Okay. And then is there any other outreach we're thinking about? Maybe like a sentence or two in the principal newsletters that's not out of the norm for us to give a reminder for a town meeting and highlight a topic, or just where to find more information about it. This week's billboard, what day does the March town manager newsletter go out?
I think that was in the middle.
It's not going till March 14th, so it's after the tours.
Okay.
But before town meeting.
And the flyer has already been in it, right? But in your write-up or in your preview, do you mention a link to our site or for more information or anything?
I haven't written it yet, so
okay.
I usually just lump all things town meeting together. I don't generally give preferential treatment to one article versus another.
Is there anything on the town meeting page that points to our website, or is it just that for more information at the bottom of a motions booklet that would prompt that?
So right now, under our town meeting page, we have all the articles listed on the left-hand side. Under Article 20, we don't have anything right now. So if you want anything in that packet folder, send it to Dan and I, and we can upload it.
So everybody can see. So you're talking about here.
Yep.
We could have something added to Article 7.
I'm sorry, Article 7. I apologize, Article 7.
Okay.
You could add something to that. Right now we have the video.
So we could even add like the FAQ PDF here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Folder. Okay, great. Any other outreach that other people are familiar with that we could utilize to reach the community? Just want to make sure I'm crowdsourcing that.
I mean, when I send the flyer to CSS, I can have them set up a press release for advertising the public forums next week.
Okay, that would be great.
Where do they send the press releases to? Do you know?
So they send it to WCAT. They put it on our news flash. They send it to the Lowell Sun, Boston Globe, some other sources maybe that I'm not aware of, but it goes pretty widely. And then they also have their own mailing list that they send out to. So it will go further than just Westford, but it will go on our news flash. People who sign up for that will get it.
Any other does the COA have their own newsletter?
They do, but they issue 2 months in advance, and they do 2 months on their newsletter, so it's likely too late for that.
Okay.
I know Jennifer did print your flyer and put that up.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks. Okay, just while you're out and about, if you're thinking of any other way that your neighbors and community members get their information, please share any other ideas you think of. Okay.
Can we put it at like Muffins on Main and places like that?
Yeah, there's bulletin boards like at Market Basket, at Whole Foods. There's plenty of community. The post offices have community message boards inside.
We already have the flyer. It might be interesting if people could swing by and put them someplace.
I have a list of spots like that from a previous role, so I can maybe send that out and see if anybody wants to sign up for some.
I can help distribute them.
Thank you. I see a head nod from Lindsay too. Okay, great. All right, so that's sort of outreach. I want to talk about the third site and then the frequently asked questions draft that went out. So why don't we touch base on the third site? So this you are all aware that as part when we were fleshing out the costs for the feasibility study, we sort of touched on how do we do our due diligence with a third site. I think it's a balance. I'm looking at this as a balance of expecting this type of question at town meeting of it and at our forums even of where would a new construction go? And I know sometimes it's nice to say we're leaving that open to the experts, but I just want to be able to talk through what we're thinking for that third site. So initially, we checked with the MSBA to see if they have any parameters for what a third site requirement plot of land has, and they did not have any. Lindsay put together some broad strokes for what to kind of look for. Can you just speak to that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I mean it's fairly straightforward. My guidance was, obviously town owned, at minimum 5 acres, and even 5 acres potentially could be tight, depending on the size of the building we're looking for. Site that's not conservation commission, conservation land rather. I know that the town owns a lot of conservation land. And really from there, I mean, I think, if we were able to have a list of potential properties, narrowing it down based on location as well as potential obvious traffic concerns, the list potentially could be pretty small. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah.
that would be my guidance on where to start.
Oh, I just realized I'm still sharing. Sorry. Kristen, did you want to just speak to what you see as the next steps there? I did see an email come through from you, but I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the land use department is, culling through our GIS right now for parcels of land that the town of Westford owns that are 5 acres or more that don't have conservation restrictions or other heavily restricted items on there. We figured that would be the first step to just pull together what those parcels look like. They're also going to put together a list of potential private properties that meet those requirements, as that could be an option to purchase property if that's necessary. We want to make sure we keep all of our options open. So once I get that preliminary list in the next week or two, then we'll circle back with that list to this committee and determine if we want to break out into a subcommittee to further discuss sites, or if we want to wait till we have a consultant on board to discuss sites.
Okay.
Great. For what it's worth, I do site evaluation work as part of my day job, so I'd be perfectly comfortable leading a subcommittee to evaluate sites.
Awesome. Thank you.
And sorry, just to clarify, Kristen, and thank you for that. They're pulling parcels that are just land, or also with buildings.
For town, it's likely not to have buildings on them because generally for all the town properties, we do use them. I believe for the private property, it's both land and potential buildings that are not utilized to their fullest potential. I'd hate to pull a piece of property that's private right now that's giving us a lot of tax revenue and is appropriate for that use at this point in time.
Perfect.
Any other feedback on that? We'll just keep updating at our next meetings with that process.
Valerie, can I just ask a quick question? I want to
Sure.
ask Kevin. I can't remember off the top of my head if Robinson School is used for like rec basketball, because that might be another just quick way to get the message out, is we could go the opposite. We have all these groups that ask us to help them share information. We could actually go the other way around and ask certain rec groups to kind of share when these forums are happening too for people and that information.
So the question was to Kevin whether or not the facility is used for youth organizations and stuff.
Yeah, I just can't remember if the Robinson gym is one of the gyms that rec basketball uses off the top of my head, but he might not be able to answer at this moment. But
Yeah.
point being is I'll look into it.
And you've just reminded me too that sometimes we share information with our PTO contacts too as another method to reach families. So um, I'll look back over my override communication notes too and see if there was any other groups we partnered with. Yeah, Lindsay?
Also the schools, the individual schools, and this may have already been said, they're like weekly emails to families.
Yeah.
Be a
Yeah.
good spot.
Dr. Chu, do you mind drafting like a brief sentence or two that they could share? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think they can just take some of the things that I've already said and just
Yeah. Okay.
precise, put it in there.
Okay, so let's touch base on the facility focused frequently asked questions document. I think I gave a quick context for this. I want to thank Allison for prompting a lot of these questions for us to think through. These are not live, and uh, I'm interested in feedback on how members see this, um, when this information makes sense, and whether to just keep adding to a longer FAQ, whether to have it kind of posted separately. If there's feedback on some of the answers, I know a lot of this was sort of the technical and history questions from Jeff Goodwin on the facility as the facilities director. And so I open it up to see if there was any feedback. Or was all great? No feedback, no edits? I can't tell if Kristen's unmuting.
No, I'm actually just scrolling the document on my iPad. Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry.
I think Valerie, when we've gone through this, a similar thing like this in the past, when we've been talking about frequently asked questions, one of the things that I got feedback on that was helpful was that notion of, if you have 2 minutes, this is a read. If you have, 10 minutes, this is your read. If you have, and like, I like the idea that we have all of these answers, and I like the idea that we're just going to potentially be providing more and more information for people who want to do a deeper dive into it. I do think it just comes down to how do we organize it? And that's going to be the most critical piece. Like the idea of even having a couple of the frequently asked questions right available on the website before anybody has to click is great. And then if they want more information, they go to this other thing. So I think this is all helpful information. We've pulled it from different documents that we've already posted, but this is all putting it in a way that if people ask these questions, they can just find it. It just comes down to what is the most efficient and, I guess, user-friendly way for us to organize it so that people who want the information can get the information and they're not turned off by it.
Yes, well
I think
said.
I would keep these questions separate than the FAQs for sure.
Agree.
Okay, great. Did anyone have a chance to read through them and had any feedback? Or I mean, there's not a lot of wordsmithing, in my opinion, to do on these. These are, like to Dr. Chu's point, if you're interested in reading about the facility challenges, it's meaty and technical, and a lot of the information is just stands on its own. It's not about how to sort of put together a narrative on it.
Yeah, this is for someone who isn't going to trust the committee or the town who's like proposing, a way forward, or the MSBA's process. This is for someone who wants all the information.
Okay, great. So I'm seeing some head nods. I think that makes sense then to kind of go live with that, add it to the website. And yeah.
Then to me, to Allison's point, like, what do we call it, right? Is it just additional FAQs? Is it just additional information? So do they know that it's because
Is it
we
building
don't
facts?
intermingled? What was that, Kristen?
Building facts or project facts?
I kind of liked her, Allison's title was Building Facility Challenges. Or we can work some of that.
Yeah, that works. Do they know if we're keeping it away from being FAQs, do they know that it really is FAQs, or it's like it's more targeted? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't want them, they're not clicking on it yet. So do they know that it's going to be a bunch of questions, or do they
Is
think it's going to be an essay, right?
is
A
your
nine.
point that it's not frequently asked questions, it's like moderately asked questions?
Seldomly asked questions.
More information. More information on the existing facility.
Additional information about facility challenges for yeah, okay. That's a good point. We can think about how to um what
I think
title.
that also goes towards how is it being presented on the website, because I almost think like the building challenges document frequently asked questions, and then the regular frequently asked questions. And the video, in my mind, would be what you would want to show someone first, and then all of the other documents that are at the bottom of that website. So if you
Yes.
could kind of title them, frequently asked questions, and then building challenges, frequently asked questions, or something like that. But keep them together so that they kind of can go together.
So that I think I hear your point, Allison. So that we've been using this web for anyone that hasn't been to this site before. I'm sharing my screen so you can see it, but and this is like the landing page for the comprehensive amount of information that this committee relates to. But maybe there's a value in separating a few kind of high priority links separate up from kind of the depository function of the website too. I think we could,
Like current in archives or something. I don't
yep,
know. I don't know what word it would be.
Well, even in the way that the questions were divided, it was there were categories there. And I don't know if it's worth saying frequently asked questions, overall project, frequently asked questions, detailed building challenges, and if there's something like that, so that, because I do think there are people who, if they know that it's more questions and they're more apt to click on it. If they think it's a report that they're going to have to read, they're not necessarily going to open it up.
okay. Seeing some head nods with that too. So we'll work with Kathy on rearranging some of this information and pulling the video update up, the video tour up into the top, as well as a sort of quick view, quick links or something at the top. Any other thoughts there? I think that the flyer is nice, eye-catching too. So it looks pretty good.
Val, I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm allowed to speak or not. This is Valerie, it's Kathy.
Yeah, sure.
On the website, we might even be able to restore the quick links on the left-hand side to make it more prominent. So when a town resident accesses that page, there's that full content on the main page, but on the left, we do quick links again.
Yeah, great. My struggle with the balance I struggle with, because this is obviously the same host site for our school committee stuff, and I'm always struggling between on your mobile, like if you load this on your cell phone or an iPad, the quick links are at the bottom. So it's like a balance between, if you're viewing it on a desktop, they show right up on your the left-hand side, which is great. But so you don't want to put something only in one place. I think that's really important. We want to kind of balance that, but that's a great point, Kathy. We can look at that.
Can you put that flyer graphic on the main page for the school department website? Because that gives it a little bit of flash rather than just text links.
Do you mean on the district website? Because it's
Yes.
on our MSBA. You mean like
Um,
the first landing page here?
Well, there is, as well as on the page that we've been using.
It is here.
The flyers there. Okay. What
Yes.
about and then we could replace it with the other flyer that you're planning to give out at the tours when this is over?
Yeah, good point. Yep.
Okay.
Just making a note of that. I like that the info sessions and the tours are really eye-catching right at the top, but I hear your point about what to replace it with once those dates passed. What the handout. And it'll be like that cleaner graphic that Allison has. And maybe even if we get that yes, no sort of table in a concise way, that could also be a graphic up on there. Okay, lots more to do. Always seems like just plenty to keep working on. Anything I've missed that anyone feels like we should touch base on? We have the Senior Center Forum on next Tuesday at 2 p.m. If let me know if you're planning to make it. Attendance is obviously optional. That's during the workday. We know that. I think Dr. Chu, it's Jeff Goodwin can make that one. Kristen, were you planning to join us?
Yes, I'm planning to join on Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday evening.
Okay. So we'll have the bases covered, but welcome any participation, obviously.
We should consider what time we want to gather on Wednesday. I don't think we need to gather before the 2 o'clock presentation with the seniors because there's no tour involved.
Yeah.
But what time, if the tours are potentially going to start at 6:30,
Yeah.
then we might consider what time people would be comfortable being there to kind of talk through just making sure everybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah. How's 6 o'clock for people?
Fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
And then we may not have talked about this, but the League of Women Voters does a town meeting preview, which is next Thursday evening. Valerie and Lindsay, were you planning to present at that event, or did you know anything about it?
It was on my radar for other reasons, but
Yep.
and it's all virtual, so
Correct.
it's pretty easy to attend. I don't know if that's on your schedule, Dr. Chu. You can check and let me know.
When is it?
Thursday
at 7 o'clock.
the 13th.
At 7 o'clock? Okay.
Yep. It's virtual.
Is there a registration link?
Yeah, I'll send you it.
Okay, thank you.
I can make that work on Thursday if it's virtual.
Great.
I can actually have Pam McNiff put Lindsay and Dr. Chu as panelists.
Oh, great. Okay.
So why don't I do that? Then it saves you both a step.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I cannot make the Tuesday Senior Center, but it sounds like you all have enough coverage.
Yep.
But
I know
I'll be
that
there
this is
Wednesday, Saturday.
is great. Thank you. This is like the marathon sprint to get us to the 22nd. So appreciate everybody's flexibility and dedication. Anything that I'm missing, or we can get 10 minutes back. We're skipping next week, and then we'll check in again on the 18th after the
Can I
forums.
just
Yep.
clarify, are you going to send me some like words or the language for the back and of the flyer and then I'm sending it to Kristen, or are you should I just send
Sure.
it to Kristen now?
My understanding was, why don't you send the original flyer that we've already pushed out in places
Oh,
to
gotcha.
Kristen
Okay.
in the editable version so that
Yep.
the communications consultants can just look that over. And then the handout, we have a couple more steps to do because legal will review. I'll put together draft language and then legal will review it. So that will probably be a couple days turnaround for the back
Understood.
of that handout. And then whether someone at central office might be able to help us with the printing and the cutting of that. We can check in with staff on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Process. Thanks for clarifying. Did you want to add anything, Dr. Chu?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think probably back to Allison's point, I imagine once we get that clarification from legal, we'll just also have Kristen, if you can have that same language go to the communications group so that they put it all together so that the language on the back looks like it goes with the front.
Right.
And then we'll print it up and take care of it.
Yes.
This way Allison isn't expecting it to come back to her again.
Right. I guess I'm just separating the physical handout, which I think we have a little bit more time on, versus the flyer that's like the event flyer that we want in the press release, which really should go out ASAP.
Correct.
Does
Yeah,
that
I
make
think the
sense?
flyer and the press release should be this week because the events are next week.
Correct.
The handouts need to be ready by next Tuesday morning.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Yep. Steve?
Just meeting schedule. Did you say we're off next the 11th and back on the 18th?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess we should plan for the 25th, right? We'll be regrouping or pushing forward based on the vote. So let's pencil that one in too.
For long-term planning purposes, are you expecting this full committee at the town meeting? Are we designating things? I gotta line stuff up personally if based on that response.
I think, I mean, I'm hoping, Stephen, that as many of us can be there as possible, because I think at town meeting, we're going to try to divide up even the 6-minute presentation so that it's more of your voices and less of ours. And for questions and stuff, I think if you can be there, that'd be awesome.
Understand. Let me work my schedule. Okay.
We have, so I would think if you've never been to town meeting before, I would plan for the morning. Does that sound right, Kristen? I mean, it'll be Article 7. We start at 9 a.m. I can't remember off the top of my head what's 1 through 6.
Yeah, so we have town reports, which will be probably under the consent agenda. Fiscal 25 transfers and appropriations, maybe a half hour maximum. Perchlorate, which is regular, probably under the consent agenda. Energy efficiency account, capital, which could take some time, and then Robinson. So I would say that it would be between 9 and noon would be a good estimate.
Okay. Feel free to stay the whole day like some of us do. But I know that's not good for everybody. Okay. All right. Let me get you back a couple minutes. I appreciate everybody's engagement and discussion, and we'll just keep working on it. Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn, please.
So move.
And a second.
Second.
Thanks. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.